Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, and tonight I will be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all of the episodes of the podcast along with links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or if you have stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them, and we can work out scheduling as needed. So, I have 3 stories for you all tonight, and also, just a quick note, I will be on the Jess Rogie show tonight again. So that's at 11 p.m. Pacific, 2 a.m. Eastern, and talking about some of my paranormal experiences, mainly focusing, at least to start with, on my apartment. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that, and I've already put a link to the channel in my Discord server, so definitely check that out, and just check out the show in general. So, again, as always, thank you all for listening, whether you're here for the live stream or for the YouTube or podcast feeds. I always appreciate all of your support. So, I guess with that, I can get on to these stories. I found these earlier today. And so let me see here. All right. Let me see. There's a notification here. Okay. Okay. There's a pop-up there I had to click on. All right. So, this first one says, a most unusual thing happened to me a few mornings ago. It was about 4:45 a.m., and I got up to use the restroom. I walked into the hallway and passed by my daughter's bedroom. I was by this time wide awake. Right away, I noticed that her door was ajar and the ceiling light was on. This seemed strange because she rarely gets up early in the morning. I looked and saw that she was watching her phone, holding it horizontally as if she was playing a video. This was odd because she always uses her laptop, not her phone, to watch things. I called her name, wondering why she was awake. She was leaning up, not sitting straight, with her knees also bent. She had no back support. The position was odd, not at all comfortable. It was as if she'd begun to sit up, and time stopped. She didn't react or turn toward me, even though I'd spoken her name in quite a loud voice. She wasn't moving, just sitting up in this strange position, as if a video was paused. When I told my daughter what I'd seen, she had no recollection of being awake that early or of me stopping by her room. Another odd thing happened simultaneously. One of my dogs, who always chases her cat, usually barks like crazy. While I stood at her door, the dog ran into her room, then around the end of her bed, not barking or looking for the cat. He then shot out of the room, as if startled by something. I turned to go continue down the hall, thinking it was weird that my daughter didn't react at all, that she was just watching the phone, sitting at an angle, in suspended animation. I didn't think about the dog being frightened until I got to my bedroom. Upon returning from the restroom, I noticed that her bedroom light was off. I was definitely awake. So that's the end of the story. It does seem like there was something odd going on there with maybe with time, maybe with whether it was frozen time or just a view of a different time, maybe. Um, the way the daughter was sitting, uh, really sitting there as if she was in the middle of moving. Um, but she wasn't moving, and there's sounds like there was no way that she could have been just hovering in that position. Um, so really odd that that happened that way. Um, and then of course the light was off when she came out of out of the restroom. I wonder if it was some kind of a time thing. Then maybe it was not like the daughter got up and turned the light off, especially if she didn't remember anything like that happening. So really odd event there. Not even just a stopping of time, but a I almost wonder if it's a view of a different point in time, not so much just time freezing. Um, so, but yeah, I had to share that one because that's it seems like I've heard similar stories, but not quite with the in that situation. Like I said, it seemed like it was more of not just frozen time, but maybe a view of a different period in time. So I wonder if the writer, the parent of this of the daughter, had waking up somehow. Waking up was a catalyst for it, some kind of because of being in a different state of consciousness. At least while waking up, somehow caused this to happen. So, but so yeah. Well, I'm going to the second story here. This one says, I work at a zoo, and at the moment I was assigned to the kangaroos. My job is pretty much telling people to stay on the path and not to try to touch the animals. Suddenly, a group entered with a little boy, around 2 or 3 years old, in a red jacket, hiding behind one of the guys, the usual way kids hide behind their parents when they meet a stranger. I looked up at the adults and repeated the instructions and added that little kids must be holding hands with an adult, and they told me that there wasn't a kid with them. And when I looked down, I couldn't see the boy anywhere. Now, since the kangaroos are free, the place has double wood doors that are really loud whenever you open or close them. So there's no way I would have missed it if someone else had gone out of there through the doors. It's not the first time I've had paranormal encounters. There we go. But this time, it really freaked me out to see a kid for some reason. It's even more upsetting than seeing the usual random shadow figure. So I wonder about the person that this kid was behind. If there's some kind of connection, the story in that story there, um, or what was going on with that. Uh, would love to have been able to talk to that person that um the kid was right behind and see if there's maybe a connection somehow. I mean, of course, you almost hope not because it's a kid, but um, still really neat story. I wonder if maybe some younger spirits just um are at zoos, just watching all the animals different times. Um, a lot of kids obviously like zoos, so it's a odd thought there, but um, sounds like the writer had things somewhat figured out there as far as the reasoning goes. So um, yeah, I don't know about that one. Makes you wonder again, that whole idea of what do animals see? And when they react to what is apparently nothing, is it really nothing? So, um, but let's see here. So yeah, that was the second story. This might be a shorter episode today, but I'll be around tonight, obviously. Like I said on another show. So and but yeah, neat story there from a zoo. I'm sure there are other stories as well out there if you look around for them. So um, so this last story is fairly quick. This one says, so one time I went to a cabin in Idaho for a family trip. My brother and I were sharing a room, and we had bunk beds. He slept on the top. It was probably around 12 a.m., and we were just messing around. We had finally decided to go to sleep. Just a heads up, this is the first night we had stayed there. I turned off the lamp we had in our room, which was our light source. I then turned on my phone light so I could go plug in my phone. The plug was where my brother uh, would have had his head on the bed. I turned off my light and plugged my phone in. I looked up at my brother, and it looked like he was on his knees, staring at me. But he looked completely black. I went to go touch his stomach and say, "You scared me." But I touched literally just air. I went to put my hand down because I was confused, and I touched my brother's head. I have never seen anything like that again, and ended up not sleeping that night. The next 2 nights we stayed at the cabin, my brother and I slept in a different room because it scared me so bad. So that's the end of the story. Wonder what she saw or who she saw. Or I say she. I don't know. I just realized that. Wonder who the writer saw. Um, but odd story there. I wonder when they say the figure was completely black, do they mean shadow? Or do they mean I don't know. It's odd whenever that happens. There's no more description. But and then putting their hand down to find their actual brother. I'm sure that startled him. So, but the woods can be weird. That's for sure. I think I've told this before, once or twice, about how I used to go to a summer camp, and there was this one night where I was laying in bed, probably the only one up in the cabin, because even then I was already starting to get to be nocturnal. I think the process had started very young, and I was just laying there, and I was hearing all the sounds of the woods. Those never stopped, but then I started hearing voices, sound like chanting and almost shouting in near in the direction of this campfire that they had, this fire pit they had for the camp. But I didn't recognize them, and it was all they were all too the timing was too good to where a lot of times when you get several people doing something like that, you're going to have people that are ahead of or behind the rest of the group. A lot of times, I think, unless you're talking about a group of musicians or singers, I think you're going to have some variance there. But there wasn't, and it was several voices, but I didn't recognize them, and I couldn't make out the words. But this went on for a few minutes, and I was waiting for someone else to say something or to move to confirm that I was hearing this, but no one did. And then eventually the noises stopped, and I didn't know what was going on. I still don't really know what happened there. It seemed like an odd thing to do for the counselors if they were there. Um, they could risk waking everyone up if it was just the counselors or the people that worked there. Um, and so yeah, it was an odd experience there. It's really neat now to think about it, but it was kind of frightening at the time because I had no idea what was going on. So so yeah, neat story there, and I guess that's going to do it for today. So tomorrow night I'll be having Derek on the show with me to talk about different ways throughout history and maybe even popular culture that um, we may have been contacted by aliens, whatever those may be. Um, and I'll probably go over my recent UFO experiences again, and just help get the conversation going, and should be fun. It's gonna be more of a conversation. I don't know if we're really gonna even have links to share. Just looking forward to talking about that topic for a while. So, um, but that's the end of it for tonight. Thank you all for listening. As my cat paws at her litter box, wonderful. Um, but have a great night, and I'll talk to you all on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.